My name's Chloe, and for an essay project, I decided to build a website blog about the Tethys Sea, and essentially really focus on the aspects of that area that I thought were both the most important and the most interesting. The purpose of building a website was that I really wanted to display my topic in a way that was both interactive and engaging for whoever might stumble across the website. That was really important to me, and also being able to display it in a creative way that I thought displayed the information in a way that didn't cut back in accuracy, but also still keep it interesting. As for challenges that I expected to come across in the completion of this essay project, I was proven right. They did show up. I've built a handful of websites in the past, and the website builder that I've used is the same one that I've used for all of these previous projects. So I felt pretty confident going into it, knowing that I'm both familiar and comfortable with the website builder and that I would be able to accomplish my goal relatively easily. However, the hiccups that I have encountered in the past did in fact show up in building this website, and it just really has to do with my computer crashing or formatting not going as planned. And I did spend a lot of time kind of fixing those things. However, I don't feel as though it derailed me the way that it has in the past, which was really nice. As for challenges that I did not expect, I really underestimated the technical difficulties I would encounter in filming the online presentation. I still haven't figured out how to record both my screen and my icon at the same time, so that is why I'm going through the process of recording it like this. And although I ended up being able to figure out something that would work, it's not exactly the way that I wanted to present my website, and that was something that I definitely didn't expect or properly prepare for, I would say. In regards to my accomplishments, I feel like I definitely did what I wanted to and what I strived to do in terms of organizing the information that I had collected and displaying it in a way that really gives an overarching understanding of what the Tethys was. However, something that I would like to do in the future, or that I wish I could have done, was to take the three topics that I really focused on, which were the Alpine Himalaya region, the whale graveyard, and also the petroleum basins, and make completely separate websites of those, as there's so much information surrounding those topics or subtopics that they really could be standalone projects. However, for this specific website, I really wanted to be able to give an overall understanding of what the Tethys was and how important those tectonic processes were and how they really shaped our planet today. So I feel like I did a good job in that aspect, but I would love to improve on being able to go more in depth, possibly with separate websites, which is possibly a future project that I could work on as well, as I had a lot of fun and thought that this was a very enjoyable process. I also feel that I learned a lot about time management and organization. As I've previously stated, this was a really detail-oriented topic, and it took a lot of time to pick apart all of the different subtopics that were being spoken about in these research papers and really try and hone on the portions that I wanted to talk about and I wanted to display, because I felt that they were really representative of how cool the Neo-Tethys and the Paleo-Tethys were. As for the actual website tour, which is going to be the next portion that I move into, as I previously stated, I ran into so many technical difficulties in trying to record this presentation that I ended up deciding that it would just be best if I went through the presentation speaking to the camera, and then it included an overdub of me doing a brief website tour. So this portion is just going to be an overdub, which isn't the way that I wanted to go about presenting my website, so for that I apologize. However, I will be posting the link so that everyone can kind of go through and look at everything more in depth. So to start off, we have my home page. That's just going to include a brief little discussion about what the Tethys Sea was and the different subsets it was divided into, as well as a brief timeline that is very brief, but I thought it was important because it really puts into perspective how these events played out. But I do end up going more in depth into all of these on later tabs. So for my first tab, it's going to be geologic process from Paleotethys to Neotethys, to which I really talk about the differences in the seas and the different tectonics that played large roles in both their creation and destruction. So this first portion is just going to be on the Paleotethys, and it talks a lot about the subduction events that happened that eventually led to it being destroyed. And I have all of these little maps right here. Following that, I have the creation of the Neotethys, which was created as a direct result of the subduction of the Paleotethys. So I have this portion here, and I even go into a bit of a discussion about what happened to the Neotethys and how those continental terrains eventually ended up turning into the Alpine Himalaya mountain range. And I included this little graphic that just kind of puts what I'm talking about here into visual terms. As I previously stated, this area of the world is still undergoing a lot of discussion as to what happened and how the events played out. So I thought that it was really important to include a page that just focused on evidence that the scientific communities that have been studying this region have collected and compiled and are pretty concrete in. So I start off talking about marine fossils that have been found along the Tethyan margin in the Himalayas, as well as marine sediments that have been found as well. And I have this graphic right here that kind of displays that, as well as some actual pictures of the different marine sediments that have been collected. This last portion really talks about orogenic belts and ophiolite sequences, which is going to be packages of deep sea sediments that have been thrown up onto continental crust during convergence. And this map really displays that really beautifully. For my last tab, I decided to focus on lasting impacts. As I previously stated, I found that this was an incredibly diverse topic and that there were a lot of areas of research that I could focus on, to which I ended up primarily focusing on the Himalaya Alpine region just because it is such an incredible geologic formation to come of all of this. However, I also thought that it was important to talk about some other sites that are happening more west that are still directly tied to the Tethys and are incredibly important. So the first one that I decided to talk about was the discovery of ancient whales in Egypt. It's essentially an ancient whale boneyard that really displays cetacean evolution in a really tangible way that we can understand. So I have this little map here, and then I go into the different skeletal remains that have been recovered. And below that, I talk about petroleum basins that have been deposited as a result of the Tethys closure, and how this tectonic activity is directly responsible for all of the oil basins in North Africa and the Middle East. And I thought that that was both incredibly important and also super interesting. And as for my last page, it is a bit wonky. You have to hover over more and then click this white box, and it's just going to be my works cited. All right, so that is everything. Like I said, I'll make sure to post my website link so that you can all look through it more in depth. But thank you so much for listening to me talk a little bit about my project, and I hope you enjoyed.